I've been putting off making this video for a long time now, but wanted to make sure that the toxic climate around this topic died down enough before weighing in on how I actually feel about the situation. Specifically, I want to talk about the Pokemon Company and its recent activity in the past few years. The way I see it, recent issues have culminated into a large-scale, overarching problem that I want to address. Now, let me be the first to say that when I'm being critical of a game company, it's because I care about their future, and I want them to keep on improving and making even better games, winning over larger audiences each release. A few years back, I actually harshly criticized Monster Hunter for a really lazy 3DS installment, Generations. The game not only disappointed me in terms of quality that I'd come to expect from the developers, but also in terms of lacking any real innovation or attempt at improving their formula. Instead, it felt like a cheap cash grab, and I called them out on it, listing a tremendous amount of points they should be rethinking for future titles. Lo and behold, about a year later, we got Monster Hunter World, which was everything I'd ever asked for in a new Monster Hunter reimagining and more. Almost all my points were hit on in this entry, and it utterly blew me away. This is what I want for Pokemon. I'm making this video because I feel like Pokemon needs to make some serious changes to its formulation to not only improve its game quality, but also drastically improve its reception. Before we get into that though, I want to touch on one more thing first. For a lot of franchises, it seemed like coming to the Switch was like striking gold. Not only were the newest entries in Zelda, 3D Mario, and Smash Brothers, and plenty more were just outstanding, but they completely blew the lids open on quality and sales. These games redefined their own formulation by getting back to the best parts of their history and giving players what they wanted. This also gave them massive sales boosts compared to their predecessors in a way that was previously unheard of. And I am crossing my fingers so freaking hard on Metroid. Come on, Samus, you can do this! So, needless to say, expectations for Pokemon in 2019 were ludicrously high, and skipping ahead a bit, even after the fallout of an intense PR disaster, the game still managed to sell tremendously well. As of now, the games have sold nearly 18 million units, blowing away previous sales figures. And that's not even counting all the crazy money getting raked in from their DLC and online services. Seriously, those numbers don't lie. And honestly, this makes me feel really conflicted. On one hand, I love Pokemon, and I just want to jump and cheer for the home team when they do well. I've been playing the games and collecting the cards and toys and all that for well over 20 years, back when it all began on my Game Boy in '98. But this also makes me feel this ominous, foreboding dread looking at those sales numbers, because if those numbers tell us anything, it's that the Pokemon Company is definitely going to keep on doing what it has been doing lately to keep turning around this ridiculous profit. And you'd be crazy to think otherwise. 18 million units at $60 each, plus all that extra digital stuff equates to somewhere around like $10 bajillion. No company ever is going to get that kind of income and decide that it's time for some radical changes. So, now that I've at least established my personal reasoning for my gloom toward modern Pokemon, we should touch on what I believe are the core issues with the company of late. But before I do, keep in mind that this is just how I feel. If you love the new Pokemon games, then more power to you, and I'm honestly happy for you. No joke, even straight up a little jealous too. But the main issue I see is that the Pokemon Company is turning its back on its longtime fans in favor of continuously hitting the same audience age range. This does mean that eventually they will turn their back on you as well in favor of the new younger crowd. So please don't take this like some attack on Pokemon or what you like. You're allowed to have your own opinions the same way that I'm allowed to have mine. I expect you to act like an informed and respectable adult in the comments, so I'll be fair and do the same thing here to deliver a clear reasoning on why I personally am having trouble justifying playing a Pokemon game in the foreseeable future. Because this is a video about my personal problems with this company that I've tightly followed for over 20 years. So I ask you to please respect that as we move forward. For many Pokemon fans, the problems didn't quite begin in the PR disaster of 2019, but instead, they were the final straw in a slow burn of years of bad company moves and lazy game entries as the Pokemon Company continuously compromised quality over marketing a new holiday release pair of games each year. For me, Gen 7 stands out as particularly lazy, as it ended up being an odd amalgamation of what was supposed to be the scrapped Pokemon Z, finishing off the weird unused elements of Gen 6 like Zygarde, but instead repackaging it as a new region to help boost sales. This left large chunks of Gen 6 unfinished, like that huge desert underground base area and the missing Volcanion in-game event in Lumio City. It didn't help that Gen 7 itself felt rushed and unfinished. The game's story is split up into exploring 4 islands, and the first 2 feel pretty polished. But then it comes to the third, and the game seems to speed up drastically. And by the last island, content is so sparse, it's clear the devs just weren't given the time to complete this game. The Ultra games were hardly better, but giving the devs enough time to complete most of the missing bits of the gameplay that they didn't have time to finish in the previous year. Collectively, that's 6 games of incomplete content squeezed out of Gamefreak in just a span of a few years. Now, the games themselves have many other problems in my eyes, severely lacking in any real quality or innovation in favor of religiously sticking to a decades-old formula defined by incredibly outdated technology. But I digress. I could talk your ear off about substantial changes that I think absolutely have to happen in new Pokemon games to improve and modernize the gameplay, but honestly, that stuff is just a disappointment to me. What really upsets me is the company showing its true colors over the past year. I always hope for the best in people. I always hope that the developers and the company managers honestly love their jobs and just want to do their best to deliver top quality products to their customers. Unfortunately, this past year has completely shattered this illusion for me with the Pokemon Company. Not only have they seemed content with effortlessly churning out cheap annual holiday pairs of nearly identical games indefinitely, but they've even gone so far as to not even hide their shame anymore. It's no secret at this point that Gen 8 was a rushed and unfinished title. It's full of gameplay compromising bugs, all the while retaining the consistently low quality of graphics, story, characterization, and gameplay we've just come to expect from the company. Not only that, but the game developers were caught flat out lying to their audience on multiple occasions on official Nintendo live streams about some of these elements. They claimed that the reason that not all the Pokemon in the Pokédex would be appearing in the games at launch would be because of all of the Pokemon models and animations getting a complete overhaul. Turned out that this was a straight-faced lie, as eventually the Pokemon model assets and animation files leaked pre-launch, absolutely proving without a doubt that they were nothing more than one-to-one ported copies. Now, on a quick side note, I'm completely understanding of having a Pokemon game with a lower Pokemon count just to make sure that the ones that are included all look spectacular and all have fluid and unique animations, and I would gladly pay real money for new expansions in order to add more Pokemon to those games. Heck, I'd be down with a new Pokemon game that looked truly AAA with outstanding redefined combat and animations with incredible HD Pokemon models, but only sported 100 Pokemon total. So this excuse they gave about needing to rework them all sounded reasonable, considering the low quality of models and animations we've had since their creation in Gen 6. However, it didn't take much sleuthing to see right through their lies, as the models all looked identical anyway. And of course, when proof came out that this was in fact completely false, it only hurt their reputation even more. For the record, this was never about a complete Pokédex. Honestly, I couldn't care less about that, as I previously stated. I just want to play a fun RPG where I get to journey around a new region and capture and raise new Pokemon. And if the gameplay and high level of quality necessitates a smaller Pokédex, then whatever. I don't care at all. Just bring on that amazing game. Unfortunately, this wasn't the end of the debacle, as Gamefreak had to react to the fact that this lie was taking the internet by storm. Hashtag Gamefreak lied was actually on Twitter's top trending list for several days. Yikes. Man, if I worked at Gamefreak during this time, I'd be queasy at the sight of that. So Gamefreak came out and, I can't believe this, actually upheld the lie as if nothing happened. They straight up pulled a Chinese government and just kept on lying to us and just hoped that it would all go away. But they also said something else that also pushed people's buttons, specifically the folks who were in the camp of wanting every single Pokemon in the Dex to be in the game, and how dare Game Freak not include them all upon release. Gamefreak outright assured fans and absolutely guaranteed that they would not be including the unincluded Pokemon in upcoming DLC. Then, without batting an eye, they later announced the new Gen 8 DLC that did just that. You know, I really hate liars. When somebody betrays my trust and lies to me once, it's very hard to win me back again. But when that person knows they've just lied to me, and we're even called out on it and the jig is up, and they have the nerve to lie to me straight-faced again, I simply can't ever find it in me to forgive them or ever trust them again. Gamefreak was caught with their pants down and had the balls to keep on lying to people. Now, though I do find this to be especially awful, this isn't even the worst of it for me. Knowing full well that these games are practically glorified ports of Gen 7, Gamefreak had the audacity to charge full price for both copies. What was originally a $40 game became a $60 game just because that's the maximum that could be gotten away with on the Switch. God forbid you're one of those purists buying both copies. Now you're sinking in $120 instead of $80 per generation. Now I have no problem with them charging full price as long as the game's quality could even hold a candle to other full price Switch titles. The problem is, it doesn't, and as it stands, Gen 8 comes off like an unfinished indie project that should sell for $30 tops. And let's get into the double cartridge thing. Back on the Game Boy, this was implemented to encourage trading and community, something we take for granted nowadays with the internet. Once games had wireless interaction, this double system milking should have been abolished entirely. Unfortunately, the Pokemon Company sees how exploitable its audience is and how willing we are to just let them keep on taking advantage of how much we love Pokemon. Seriously, just slap the Pokemon IP on something and it sells. But something feels disingenuous when I see them demanding $60 for two nearly identical games with the same low quality that they've been pumping out for years for $40 each. Moving on to that DLC, I want to talk about the good first. I absolutely am full on supporting the future of Pokemon expansions being treated in this way instead of new games. I always believed once we had the ability to purchase DLC in other games, Pokemon should stop exploiting its customers and just offer paid expansions instead of hardly improved new full-priced cartridges. And now they're finally doing it, and that's great! But oh man, do I have some serious problems with this expansion. Aside from the mediocre amount of content actually added, which in all honesty was expected considering how little actually changed from previous expansions, the price for the DLC, in my opinion, is absurd. Even after they had the audacity to charge full price for an incomplete product that they had already needlessly split into two for no reason other than exploiting fans for all they're worth, they decided to additionally make them pay an extra $30 for each of their games in order to play the full expansion. If we're keeping score, that's $180 for a single person to purchase both games with their expansions for what should have been a single game and single DLC pass. But that's not where the money gouging ended. You see, we'd been patiently waiting on information about Pokémon Home for ages, but finally heard about how it was going to work, and more importantly, how much it was going to cost. Before we get to Home, let's keep in mind that Pokemon Bank is still a thing. It's an online service where you can store your Pokemon in the cloud and transfer them to and from certain games, usually only up generations and to and from similar generations, but not backward. This service is $5 a year, and has been a thing since Gen 5, so if you're like me who's been using it since then, you've already spent quite a lot on this service. But on to Pokemon Home, the prices and actual services are outrageous! Aside from the pitifully insulting free option where players can only back up 30 Pokemon, can't integrate with Bank, or even appraise their Pokemon, there's a premium paid option. And of course, to get any of those normal things we'd come to expect in an online Pokemon service, they decided to lock them all behind a paywall, and a hefty one at that. What used to get you an entire year of Pokemon Bank now only gets you 3 measly months of Pokemon Home. The cheapest option you have here is to purchase a single month of service for $3. but due to the nature of the service, it's clear it'll end up being a continuous thing for most people. This leaves us with the annual cost of $16. Keep in mind, this is in addition to Pokemon Bank. Now, for a single person to play the Pokemon games with their expansions and have the ability to back up their Pokemon and use online services, they'll need to spend over $200, aside from the annual $20 a year they're already paying for Nintendo Switch Online in order to even access these services. And of course, tax is a thing, so it's even higher than that in the end. But as far as I see it, can you think of any single game that's so outstanding that you'd be willing to pay upwards of the cost of your entire console again just to play it? And then keep paying a collective $41 a year at least in order to keep playing it. In the same way that the Star Wars fan can end up getting disgusted with their own franchise due to the malicious practices of EA, I have fallen so hard and fast on Pokemon due to Gamefreak's horrible business practices and intents. They've shown me that they are not above targeting and exploiting children in order to maximize profits. They've shown me that they have no problem with repeatedly straight up lying to their customers and ignoring their concerns. They've shown me that they have absolutely no intention of innovating or even so much as slightly deviating from their formula for the sake of breaking new ground for their series. But worst of all, they've shown me that they absolutely couldn't care less about their fans. Sure, it's a business, and it's their job to figure out how to maximize profits. So what if they've lied a couple times to cover their butts? That's some Bethesda or Activision level crap right there. But at least those companies still end up occasionally making quality, innovative content that keeps their fans happy. But what has Game Freak done? They have lied to me. They've betrayed my trust, they've milked their franchise dry and turned it into something that it never was to begin with. Pokemon is a game about community, and exploring, and collecting, and coming together to share those experiences. Or rather, it was. Now Pokemon is a game about adding a thin coat of paint to the same product year after year. Now Pokemon is a game about releasing every November to exploit kids during the holidays. Now Pokemon is a game second and a money machine first. But all this doesn't make me angry anymore, it just makes me sad. Instead of this game sticking with its audience and lasting a lifetime, it's become an out-of-control money-making machine that creates short-term profits over long-term fans, and leaves those fans in the dust the moment they see the man behind the curtain. Some players prefer to stay happy in the Matrix, simply ignoring all of the horror going on behind the scenes, and I honestly envy them for their ignorance, but I can't bring myself to do that anymore. I used to play a lot of Pokemon on this channel, and you've likely even found me because of it. I feel like I'm letting you all down by not playing more, but with the recent developments with the company and Game Freak showing their true colors, I can't bring myself to continue supporting such a despicable company any longer. I've planned and even prepared a Pokemon Soul Silver Cute Charm randomizer game for us to livestream, but due to the recent events, I can't bring myself to even fake being excited about Pokemon anymore. Now, like I said at the top of this video, I sincerely hope so freaking much that the Pokemon Company finally starts listening to their longtime fans and starts creating the Pokemon games we've been asking for them for what feels like an eternity, but I highly doubt that will ever happen. But until that day comes, when that long dormant spark I'd thought I'd lost in this company returns with new invigoration and they somehow turn it all around and win me back, I will stay out of it, opting to watch this train wreck from the sidelines. But here's the thing though, this separation from Pokemon has given me the chance to play so many other incredible games in the past few years, and I'm just so happy because of that. It's expanded my horizons, and if anything, helped me put the faults of Pokemon into a whole new perspective, better understanding the norms of expected gameplay quality in our modern day and age. I believe we all deserve better than what the Pokemon Company is currently creating. And if you think the same way, then I highly encourage you to stop supporting their toxic behavior as well. The only way to stop a problem like this is to stop feeding it. So let's all see this as a good thing and try and get something good out of this for a change. Hey, did you see the new Digimon games? They're actually really incredible. You should check them out. Regardless, I hope that you don't look at this video as a complaint against Pokemon. I'm just trying to explain to you why I personally feel betrayed by the franchise and simply want to take a break from it to avoid making sour, forced content. Besides, when it seems that all my other favorite game franchises are knocking it out of the park right now, I can't help but feel happy, even though Pokemon's just kind of doing its own thing over there in the corner, playing in the dirt. Where'd its other shoe go? So I hope you don't hate me for being honest with you guys here. Let me know what you all think about the Pokemon Company and your thoughts in the comments below. I hope to see you guys all join me in some new games on my channel. Seriously, we're trying out so many new things lately, it's a perfect time to just dive in and try something new. But I just want to thank you guys so much for being here and understanding why I feel the way I do about the Pokemon Company. I want to make sure that I'm being completely honest with you guys. I don't want to make bad content or forced stuff, and in the end, it's not what you want. And I want to just have fun and play games that we can all enjoy together, and honestly, I think we can make this a good thing in the end. So thank you guys so much for watching. Remember to like the videos and subscribe for more, and I will see you guys in the next video. Booyah!